Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club, your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, and Scott, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Ahoy hoy, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. It's Spider-Man Wave, and I have picked the first book. I'm your host, Shane, and I'm joined by very special guests. You might not remember these faces. They have been on before if you've watched in the way back. This is Phil.
Hello.
And this is Scott.
Hello!
Welcome back, chaps. I've missed you.
Missed you too, mate.
I put on a good front last week and pretended I didn't miss you, but really, I just needed you with me.
We heard you were a complete mess before the show and after, like, trying to hold it together without us.
Absolutely. Kevin and Liam were like, just stop crying, hit start.
Welcome to the Nerd Herd.
Well done, Kevin and Liam, for holding the fort last week.
They did fantastically well, and we are very proud of them for doing what they did. They did a fantastic show. You did all right.
They saved my bacon. So, as I said, it's Spider-Man Wave, as it's his birthday this month, I believe. So I have kicked us off with The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man from 1993. It's a 4-part miniseries, one of the very first Marvel comic collections I ever completed. So I thought it would be a great choice to celebrate the Spidey's birthday, as I probably haven't read this book in about 20 years, so it was a great refresher. Before we jump in and see who's in the chat, I do have a synopsis written down, so we'll quickly get through that, and then we'll see who's in the chat, and we'll see what we thought of the book. How about that?
Sounds great.
Let's do it.
So, The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man from 1993. Dr. Octavius has been arrested and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences, and his adamantium arms have been destroyed. While this is happening, the long-thought dead and one-time Kingpin lackey, the Answer, returns with a deal of mutual satisfaction for Dr. Octopus and himself. Meanwhile, across the city, Leila Davis, aka Hardshell, has been released from prison and wastes no time in coming up with a plan to get rich and revenge on the man she thinks killed her husband. Hardshell reforms the Sinister Syndicate, including Vulture, Rhino, and Boomerang, before heading out to steal a nuclear blaster. Also, the Beetle and Stegron hear of Hardshell's plan, and they try to make a deal for the blaster using a captured Spider-Man. Infighting and backstabbings are guaranteed, as these lethal foes of Spider-Man are front and center in this 4-part miniseries. How about that? Sum it up.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I
deliberately mentioned Spider-Man as little as possible, because so did the writer of this book.
Yeah. This was not a Spider-Man book.
I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
Before we jump to that, let's say hello to everyone in the chat. We have Liam the Funky Gibbons. Heidi ho. Hi Liam, thanks for joining. We have James Cosplay
Copley
in the chat. Oh. My screen's like this big, sorry.
Oh, right.
James Copley says, hi guys and gals, it's been a while. We have Connie in the chat as well. Hi pals. Hi Connie. Martin from Sonic's Comics is also in the chat. Evening all, it's Spidey time. Well, kind of. It's kind of Spidey time with this book.
We're warming up.
We have... I'm easing you into Spider-Man,
Yeah.
apparently. We have Ran R7. He says, evening lads and chat. And we also have Lewis Deakin.
Hey.
Lewis Deakin, howdy.
Some new
Thanks for
faces
joining.
today.
Yes, some Spider-Man fans. Sorry, I may have let you down with this selection.
By not picking a Spider-Man book, you mean?
It's called The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man, and he's on the cover of every single book. I assumed he would have a bigger part to play. But let's get to initial thoughts, shall we? Who do we start with? Let's start with the Spider-Man fan up here, Phil.
Okay, so this it's going to start off a bit of an oxymoron. This is not good, but I kind of enjoyed it in a strange way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
It does.
it's not good. Like this is 1993, but it very much looks and it reads like a Silver Age Spider-Man story, like 25 years prior to this, or the time it was released. It just, I don't know why. It was just, I don't know, just wasn't good, but I liked it. Like, I don't really explain any more than that. Like, Spider-Man was not really in it, and the times he was in it, either knocked out, captured, or being chased by bees. That's
Bees,
Spider-Man's.
the bees.
That's his involvement in this story, and then a whole lot of other craziness, all these kind of random characters, and yeah, it is what it is. It was a
Connie
four-issue
makes a good
miniseries,
point.
fine.
Connie makes a very good point. She says it's called The Lethal Foes of Spider-Man, not The Lethal Foes and Spider-Man. There's my mistake right there.
She's nailed
yes.
it. Connie,
Well spotted,
she's nailed it. Yeah.
Scott, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, a decent start, I guess, to Spider-Man-ish month, and yeah, this was just, you know, maybe this was just a story that looked at, here are all the different rogues, you know, of Spider-Man, and this is what they're capable of, and we didn't even have all of the, you know, the main ones. Like, I have no idea if they were, you know, they had appeared, but at this point, but Mysterio, where was he? Is it Scorpion? Or the Lizard? Yeah, where were all they? Goblin? Green Goblin? Where were these guys? So, like, you know, how lethal are these? Like, are the other ones just top tier? Are they even better? Or do they just decide, you know, let's try and introduce some lesser known villains from the Spider-Man rogue into a story?
Yeah, because you bring up a good point. So, from my understanding, there was a prior event, a prior
Deadly
story to
Foes?
the deadly foes of Spider-Man, and then there was this. So, lethal sounds worse than deadly, if you know what I'm trying to say. So, these
It does
heroes
mean
were
the
also,
same.
but these all, I know, yes, they are technically, but it just sounds more sinister, doesn't it? But these villains were also part of deadly foes. So, how did they become? You know what I mean? Like, how did they get more lethal? It's just, maybe I'm being too literal.
They got a
I don't
nuclear
know.
blaster this time.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
nuclear. It has 3 blasts and then it's dead. Doesn't work again. And
Runs
it's worth
out.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
Nuclear is not 3 blasts and done. That's like a spud gun. I'm out of potato. Sorry. That's what that is. It's not a nuclear blaster at all.
No, I mean, it doesn't even do that much damage. Like, Rhino absorbs most of the damage from one of the blasts, and it barely just knocks him out. It doesn't do it. Like, it didn't kill anyone. It didn't blow up any buildings or anything. It was a very weak gun
Like,
worth $1 billion.
Even the guy Stegron, who they accidentally blasted as a homeless guy living in the park, it had a tree. Again, a nuclear blast. You would expect a crater in the earth. You know, like something a bit more lethal.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
you got to think like the grass around the Stegron guy had gone away, so you know that's really
it's the weed
powerful.
killer.
Yeah,
So they could have called it the weed
A
blaster.
$1 billion weed killer.
So here's the thing: the gun wasn't great. It wasn't very powerful. It was just it was just the bit to get the story going. But they used something to destroy adamantium. They used a molecular rearranger. Now, wouldn't it have made more sense had they stolen that? Because if that can destroy adamantium, then that's a dangerous weapon, rather than just this nuclear blaster. I thought that's what they were building to, because they were going to the same laboratory where they destroyed.
Yeah, the atomic. What was it called? The atomic something or another, wasn't it?
It's called the molecular rearranger.
Oh no, the kind of company or the building they're going towards.
Oh,
But yeah, maybe like the writer is just like toying with us. Like, here's some villains that are really dumb, and they're not going for the real prize. They're going for this fake spud gun, and us as readers are falling for it every time. You know.
I mean, it's possible. Can we just say a quick hello to the comic book report who's joined us?
Hi, buddy.
Hi. Thanks for joining. I'll forgive anyone in the chat who hasn't read this book. Honestly, I will forgive you if you haven't read along. I picked this book not just because I own it, but it has a sentimental value because I got it, when I was like 10 years old, maybe like slightly younger. I didn't buy this. I got this in lucky bags.
Nice.
I think I've told you about this before. A lucky bag. It was 50p. It came with a Marvel comic, some sweets, and like one of those little toys with the little marble in. Just something really basic. And I got like issue 2. So I went back the next day. I got another lucky bag, and I got like issue 3. So then I kept buying the lucky bags until I got all 4. And it took me a while and many, many doubles, but that was the very first collection that I completed. So it means a lot to me. It might not be great, but it has sentimental value. So
Nice, great.
It's just a little story.
So is that a reason? Is that one of the reasons why you chose this then for Spider-Man month? The nostalgia.
Yeah.
Can I go back a little bit to the $1 billion gun? I've just done some quick maths, and I wanted to see how much $1 billion was worth today.
Oh my gosh, go on.
So the inflation in percentage between 1993 and 2022 is a cumulative increase of 105.04%, which means that $1 billion gun is now worth $2,050,000,000 something. It's doubled in
For
worth.
3 blasts. For 3
For
blasts. Of a
Yeah.
That just kills grass.
$2 billion weed killer, yeah.
Those stubborn weeds you have in your garden. This will work the treat.
3
Only
times.
3 times though, yeah.
Yeah.
Pete's in Triple G says this book makes me feel old. Yes. Yeah, me too. Well, I am old, so that's probably why.
I do feel a bit let down with it because we have read some 90s books on the Nerd Herd, and I've read some 90s stuff myself as well. And there's always something I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not even just saying like Todd McFarlane style art, but the 90s art for Marvel especially always stands out as unique for me. And this didn't. It just didn't feel like a 90s book at all. The art style is like, if you remember the I can't remember what Spider-Man book we read, but you had Mary Jane, the big hair, the kind of curvy body, like that was 90s. Do you know what I'm trying to say? This wasn't that at all. It was completely different from that, and it really irks me. So I was wondering, are the creators, or were they older when they had written this themselves, or possibly have they purposely written this in the style of Silver Age? Just for like nostalgia purposes, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Are you trying to say like are these creators, are they more used to that Silver Age kind of style, and they just did it in the 90s?
That's what I'm wondering. And if I could really be bothered myself, I'd look it up beforehand and not use guys know. But I haven't done that. I'm just thinking out loud because I do feel like it just doesn't feel like it's 90s for me.
No, I mean, I didn't know reading this back in the 90s what a 90s comic should be like, so I had no prior knowledge or reference points, but reading it now, I 100% understand what you mean. They are describing everything in this book. Not only do you get it in the boxes that tells you exactly what's going on, you also get their inner monologue, which is telling you what's going on. So it's one of my notes. It's like, it's too much monologuing. It's just far too much. Highland G's in. Hi, Highland G. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, there was a scene where I can't remember his name. It was Hardshell's husband or ex-husband or whatever. He came back.
Strike Back.
Yeah, Strike Back. That's the one. So he came back, and like mid-battle, he's like describing what happened to him, like why he was gone, but whatever, blah blah blah. Like you're mid-fight against like 6 different villains. Like what are you doing? Like you need to explain it, and that's the thing too, because they did do that in the 90s. But maybe not as much. Like writing hasn't evolved a lot, obviously, and you don't get that at all today, pretty much. But you didn't get that much either in the 90s. This was definitely 60s, 70s style writing, and
the thing that got me really was, I think it was like issue 4, and Doc Ock was thinking to himself, but also referring to himself in third person. I've got it here. And it's like, alas, Spider-Man will die by bees, not by octopus. Too bad. But Otto Octavius has other matters to concern himself with. And I'm like, why are you like, if I just went, oh, but Scott Shelf needs to do this, like in my head, like, you don't do that. And it's weird. But it's just, it's that kind of thing. And they'd be like, okay.
It reminded me of Secret Wars. When Magneto refers to himself as the master of magnetism, and like they would always introduce themselves with what power they had and what they could do. And it's unnatural, I think, is the word I'd have to use to describe the dialogue in this.
Yeah.
Completely unnatural.
I think it was more of a tool used to let the readers know this is Otto Octavius, if you didn't know, because we put it in bold as well, just to really send it home.
It's like, was he paid by the word, do you think, the writer?
Yeah, maybe.
There was a lot of words in this book. So many. It was some of the pages had far too much, not just describing what's going on, but the conversations between the people. It's just
was a pretty book though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like colours wise, like I love it. I say it every time we read a 90s book. Colours were great. Very vibrant, and I'll say it again and again. Yeah, loved it. I'm more than happy to read a 90s book purely for how they look. That will always be something I look forward to, and this didn't disappoint.
Yeah, it did look good. See, I don't want to be offensive to the creating team, but this is 93, so the whole big Marvel Exodus create Image Comics happened in 92. So I'm wondering, sorry, what's his name? Daniel Fingeroth? Yeah, I don't want to offend you guys, but like, were they scraping the bottom of the barrel because all their good creators had left, and they're just trying to think of people to kind of, write a Spider-Man story?
I mean, I don't know. I did go through my collection. Like, on CBZ, you can put a writer's name in and see what you own of theirs. And this is the only thing I've got with this writer in. So I don't know what else he's done. I might have to check like Comic Vine. I think they'll have a list.
I've never heard of him myself.
I can do a bit of background stuff now.
Well, while you do that, Lewis says that as someone who struggles with reading and uses comics to try and boost my skills in an entertaining way, I found this comic quite hard to read due to the wordiness of it. And I completely get that. It's so heavily condensed with like just words. Every page is just bombard. And I can understand it. It's a great way to get your money's worth from a comic book. I've moaned that there have been too many pages with no text on at all in books we've read, and I feel like I'm being cheated if I don't get that. But then on the flip side, you can't really enjoy an action scene when every single person on the page is having a massive conversation. It's just, I wonder, what do those pages look like without all those bubbles, those word bubbles? They must look great. The fight scenes and stuff.
As a quick look, it seems like this is the only like full run he's done, but he has done like everything else seems to be just Marvel. Like he's done issues here and there. He's done like maybe 2 or 3 in a row, and then like an odd one here and there. He's done like Avengers, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Iron Man. He's done a Venom story, but most of his stuff seems to be Spider-Man related. But yeah, it seems he's dabbled in a few other heroes and teams as well.
It seems like he's the kind of guy that Marvel employ, so whenever their big writers want a wee break from their runs, they'll just give him 2 or 3 issues whilst they prepare something different.
His main job was like he was a group editor for most Spider-Man books apparently around that time. So maybe he thought, I've edited loads of Spider-Man, so I can write one. Maybe that's what he thought.
On that then, because it makes it even worse for him, because Eagle Eye Scott in our WhatsApp chat noticed there was a page with the hand wasn't coloured correctly for a character, and we thought it looked like Rhino had 3 hands. Also, at the last page, whenever Spider-Man is having his final thoughts, certainly in the copy I read, it doesn't say Aunt May, it says Hunt May.
Yeah, Hunt May. I saw that.
So I just think these kind of mistakes, if you're an editor by trade, shouldn't really happen. These should be caught before they go to print.
And there was also one more as well. The first page of issue 4, where Swarm is doing something. It says like "Go my," and then there's a blank space, and then it says "Upon Spider-Man."
Yes,
that's right. And I didn't understand what it meant. I was confused there too. I thought I was just too dumb to read it.
I assume it was supposed to be like a bold word. They're saying "Go my bees" or "Go my
my
beauties."
beauties. It's in the printed version, so it's the digital copy that is missing that. It says,
So
my beauties, visit upon Spider-Man, death at your exquisite onslaught."
And the version I've got was reprinted in 2018.
Yeah.
So
go to the last page there, Shane. Does it say Hunt May?
It does say Hunt May in the physical copy as well, yes.
Wow.
Yes, it does. So this was, obviously, the single issues were printed in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And no trade that I could find of just this. They did a trade in 2011 called The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man, which included both stories.
Yeah.
That's the only trade I could find for this. So it took a long time for them to even print it again after 93.
Yeah.
They kind of left it on the shelf and forgot about it.
I can't imagine there'd be much appetite for it, to be honest. I can't think people will be calling for it.
No, I don't think they reprinted it. I think it was more they did it for Marvel Unlimited to put it on there.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But in 1995, Super Nintendo did bring out a Lethal Foes of Spider-Man video game. Completely different storyline, but it kept the complete name for this mini-series.
I bet it was better than the the Absolute Carnage one,
though. Shall we get onto our pages and have a look?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
And see what we thought of the art for this book. Phil, we'll start with yours.
Cool.
See which page you picked.
Yeah, I just think it obviously a good kind of impact kind of splash page. But the reason I actually picked this is because it's something that I never would have seen in a 90s book. At least I can't remember. This kind of scratchy outline. It's not like it's a block panel. It's all kind of just like a scratchy kind of...
Didn't even notice.
Yeah, and it's just something I'm used to seeing. Obviously, it does look pretty cool to be fair too, of Rhino busting through the wall and stuff, and the villains falling from behind. But that, for some reason, just the kind of white border with this scratchy outline just stuck out for me for some reason. And even like the Boomerang thing kind of coming through to it, just I thought it was a really cool page. But
go on, sorry.
I was going to say it's just again it's typical Spider-Man books as well, that Peter Parker just happens to be at this laboratory.
That's one of my notes. He just happens to be everywhere. One of my notes is like Spider-Man just happens to be where the bad guys are. That's literally my note, word for word.
But pun intended. I think there's an answer for that.
No.
I think what is cool about what I was thinking would have made this page cooler was if they kind of used the margin and they had Rhino's arm coming in front of that border and Vulture's wing and the lightning bolt from the boomerangs, just to show a bit more that they're coming through the wall.
Like a 3D effect almost.
Yeah, and I think it's a great page regardless. But yeah, I remember seeing this and going, that'd be cool if they just added a little bit outside the borders. It would have had a much more of an impact, I think.
Yeah, because if you look at Hardshell's right hand, it's kind of out of the border.
Yeah. And
she's the one that's in the background. She's the furthest one back.
Yeah.
Now
you've made me hate this page. Thanks.
Let's get it off the screen quick. It's triggering.
God, sorry.
That was going to be one of my pages. But instead I went for this page.
Nice.
It's Strike Back versus... I was calling him Stegron. Is that
Stegron? Yeah.
Stegron, yeah. I wasn't too sure how to... It was just, again, an unnatural word to say. But I thought it was really cool.
As Spidey called
like a Stegosaurus. I know, but like the Stegron part was weird. He was very lizard-esque. I feel like if you just painted him green, you wouldn't know the difference. In this book, he could just be the lizard. But him versus Strike Back was great. And sound effects, Phil. You like a good sound effect.
Yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson-esque, of course.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
A Strike Back was giving off a very Deathlock vibe, the way he was designed
Yeah.
in this book. You know, half like the face.
Definitely.
I know he's got a whole face, but just the whole robotic thing, and also like a little bit of Cable from the X-Men.
Yep, because of the eye.
Yeah,
Plus, he could
Green
teleport. I know Cable, he goes back and forth in time, doesn't he? But
Yeah.
still teleportation, kind of.
but I thought this page was quite cool. Good action splash page,
Yeah.
very minimal text.
Very bright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Big
really,
yellow blue background.
It's a really cool page.
Seems to be no gravity, though. That's no.
Yeah.
Rocks just
Yeah.
floating around everywhere.
You'd be happy to know I don't have anything to say to make you hate this page.
Lucky you.
Just Phil's. Maybe you could
Scott,
do the
shall
same
we-
for my page, Phil.
Why, well.
Let's see what your page is, Scott.
This was my page from issue 2. The very start of issue 2. I just love that middle panel. I don't know what it was. Like, this is showing the computer chip that is interlocking Doc Ock and the Answer's minds together. And I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of some really cool, like, 80s, 90s film poster. I don't know, some sort of, like Die Hard-esque, or I don't know, but that kind of vibe of movie, whereas like some sort of heist or something's going on. But I just love the fact that that whole panel is just blue, and it's just loads of different shades of it, and their eyes kind of really blend well into that whole thing, and you've got the lightning between it, and it's just cool. I don't care for the top and bottom panels, just the middle one.
Yeah, the top and bottom don't really add
Nah,
too much to the whole thing. Yeah,
that one just really popped out of me.
I've nothing bad to say to put you off this page, Scott. It's,
Nah.
it's cool.
Phew.
Imagine how nice this book would be if it were all drawn like that. If this were like
Yeah.
Spider-Man blue and white or something like that, and it was just all that. That would look very fancy. So we have a couple of submissions. No, we don't. We have one submission and an
Yes.
extra page. Is that your extra page, Phil or Scott?
Mine.
Yay! Let's just check Martin's page and then we'll see what your extra page was.
Cool.
Yeah, I almost had this myself. It's cool.
Oh,
Cool. So yeah, Martin sent this in very close to the wire, I might add as well. But he said, I really like the way Spider-Man is drawn on this page. It's just it's so bright and colourful. It stood out to me out of all of the 4 issues. There's a lot of colours going on. It's great.
I really like the scene in this book too. So he's held, for some reason, he's held captive with these like 4. I don't know how to call them. Like they're not just like handcuffs or some sort of special globe or whatever. Like just go around your
Proper
hand.
encapsulating
Yeah,
his hands
like
and
yeah,
feet.
which is really stupid. So, but I love the way he gets out of it by just like emptying all his web fluids, just to kind of create the pressure to burst them open. I thought that was really cool.
It was
I like
cool.
this page.
yeah. Can I just point out, Martin is the only person that picked a picture with Spider-Man in it. The 3 of us for Spider-Man week, not one of
Good
us
one.
picked a picture with Spider-Man in it. That's embarrassing.
What I was getting some sort of Secret Wars vibes from that picture, just because of the little black bubble kind of stuff going on throughout the whole thing. You see there around the
Yes.
edge, yeah, that kind of
Yeah. And also the
Yeah.
smoothness of the art. It's very, very 80s and Secret Wars. It's not
Yeah.
as detailed as 90s art became. It's weird. Scott, so you have an extra page. You picked this one.
Yeah.
Finally.
I've dubbed this as the Spider-Man butt attack, because
Yeah,
it's just coming at Rhino, just hitting him with his ass.
Teabagging him. Teabagging Rhino.
it's just so like proportionally strangely drawn. And you know, was this intentional? Was Spider-Man going, you know what, I'm gonna come at you butt first, to really get the impact, you know? I don't know. It was just weird. It just stood out for me. It was quite strange.
I remember thinking it was a fun page.
Yeah.
The way he got rid of the swarm and, you know, sent them after Rhino.
Mhm.
I thought that was very cool. We have... Sorry, this is being really slow for me today. I think I'm lagging a little bit. We have Grey Man in the chat. He's
Hello.
joined us. Hi, chaps. Thanks for joining. He's probably read this. Grey Man's read like everything, hasn't he? So we can agree that the art is, for the most part, pretty decent in this book. It changes quite drastically in issue 3. The artists, the inkers and the pencilers do change. So it is quite noticeable, but it's not bad. It still keeps with the style, for me, I thought, anyway. But what do you think of the writing in this book? I know we've touched on it, and the story. Phil, sorry, Scott, we'll start with you.
There's just villains everywhere, mate. It's just villains.
You get a villain, and you get a villain.
You know, it got to the point where it was like, I knew I was getting to the end of each issue, and I was like, who are we going to get at the end of this one? And that was it. But this was really cool for me to read because it was introducing me to a lot of new characters, which I'm always grateful for because your quiz makes me need to learn loads of characters. So they've been added to my repertoire. But you know, yeah, like I never heard of Hardshell, Stegron, Swarm, I think Beetle and Strikeback and like the Boomerang and stuff like that. So I never heard of all these characters, and it was interesting for me to read just to learn about what these characters are, and we got a little bit of like background, like we know that Boomerang and Beetle hate each other, and Hardshell and Strikeback have this kind of history and things like that. So it was cool, and it did kind of make me go, maybe I should go back and read Deadly Foes, just to see any other sort of relationships or dynamics that we get with these characters as well. But Shane, have you read Deadly Foes?
I have not, no.
Okay, because I was thinking, should we have read Deadly Foes? Like, is this a sequel?
Probably.
Like,
They did refer to the Deadly Foes quite a few times through the book.
Yes.
In
That's
terms of
one of my
team being together and having the fallout and whatever else. So there's maybe an element where maybe we should have read that first.
Yeah.
But Shane didn't buy that in Lucky Bags 1983, so...
No, I did that. That wasn't in the Lucky Bags, unfortunately. It was just this. One of my notes that I did write down is also a statistic. You know how many asterisks telling you to read other issues there were in this entire miniseries?
26.
82. Yeah.
Not that high. There were 17. They expect you to read 70. So the first issue had 6, the second had 4, the third had 5, and the last one only had 2. But they were the editor's notes telling you to read this book and that book and this book and that book.
You know, they weren't all 17 different things, were they? It was
a couple.
Like,
no.
A lot of them were Deadly Foes 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then there was Captain America was mentioned at some point. Like,
I didn't count all the read issue 1 and read issue 2 because you're assuming that I'm reading them because I'm reading the trade. But this was, find out how the answer died, find out why this one. It was a bit much. It was like almost every 3 pages you're being told to go check out another issue. It's like, let me finish this one.
Yeah.
The other thing about kind of prior knowledge, and it was, is it Hargrove? Was Doc Ock's cousin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He kept saying about how he was doomed, how Doc Ock owns him because of his misdemeanors. So what were they?
Embezzling. He embezzled funds from his company.
But I just feel like there was more that maybe we should have known before. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
there was more of his background.
Yeah, he just says that he embezzled money.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, so it's a felony. It's not a misdemeanor, Phil. It's a felony.
Okay. Well,
hard time for that.
I thought he said misdemeanor, but I quite liked his little arc in terms of the end where he stood up to his cousin. It didn't work out for him. He didn't achieve anything other than the fact he had the balls to go
but
up.
He then became undoomed.
Yeah, and he got a little bit of respect from his cousin. He
did.
Doc Ock respected him enough not to kill him because he stood up for himself. So that's something.
Well, wasn't it? He didn't kill him because it reminded him of his mum or something.
Oh yeah, because he was
mom's
related
bloodline or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're in my mum's bloodline, it would only remind me of her if I was to kill you. So for this once, I will let you go. Otto Octavius will let you go, sir.
Yeah, I always read Dr. Ock talking like the Penguin from the '66 Batman movie. I don't know why. Just meh, meh. One of my notes is that I quite enjoyed the lack of Spider-Man in this book, if I'm honest.
Who?
Because I do find Spider-Man quite grating.
Who's that?
Who? I find him quite grating as a character. He's just a bit too cocky and arrogant and tries to be funny and
Kai loves a pun.
Yeah, but they're not good puns, are they? You got to have a good pun. If it's not good, don't do it.
Just pun for the sake of having a pun.
To be fair, I wanted more Spidey, but I know where you're coming from. Like, he can be quite irritating, and I think in this instance, he wasn't written any kind of like redeeming kind of way where like you really took to him type of thing. Even his quips weren't funny this time round. But as we mentioned, he was hardly in it. He spent most of the time on his backside or handcuffed, and he didn't even save the day in the end. He didn't do anything. What did he do?
No, it's the Indiana Jones conundrum, isn't it? Like Indiana Jones, the movie, would happen exactly the same whether Indiana Jones interferes or not, because he has no impact on the end of the story. You know, they open the box and they melt. You know, Indy didn't stop them from doing that. And in the end of this book, Spider-Man being there or not, they beat each other. So he was completely redundant for the entire book.
And I think this obviously must have just been some sort of sales tactic. Maybe just, we're going to do a very short 4-issue Spider-Man run. You know, you picked it up because it was Spider-Man and he wanted this run. And, I know they were all just enemies of Spider-Man. And then they just let them have it, and just Spider-Man was just in it a couple pages per book.
Yeah. I think... Do you think they said, right, we need a 4-part miniseries, but we need it to end where it starts so that it doesn't interfere with any other Spider-Man book we have going?
Yeah.
We need 100%. Everyone to end at the exact same space that the book starts, so this is a nothing miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it felt like.
I wonder if it's the, if you think about it in terms of comic book characters, you have Batman and you've got Spider-Man with the biggest rogues galleries. They both have the 2 biggest rogues galleries, and not everyone's going to be a really lethal villain. Because here we have Rhino, who's pretty well known.
Yep.
Doc Ock, obviously. I think Doc Ock was one of the first original ones for the Vulture. So you've mixed in the kind of more well-known ones with, some really unknown heroes. So is it their kind of attempt to like launch them into a bigger stand or higher standing, or just the fact that they just want to use as many as they can before people actually forget who they all are? That's what I'm kind of thinking. But it just seems the teams just seem like they shouldn't be matched together, because I actually feel like the Vulture came across a bit stupid in this, because I think it's to do with the team that was around him. The Rhino did
mind.
The Rhino was the same. Like they all have their own kind of motivations, I suppose. Because the Rhino wanted the blaster for his family, or to sell for his family. The Vulture wanted to cure his cancer with it, but the rest of them just wanted the $1 billion. It's not worth it, guys. You're getting ripped off. You may as well get the Ultimate Fallout 4 CGC acetate version and
or just go to B&Q and buy some weed killer. I mean,
exactly. It's not worth.
See, what they should have done is they should have got that gun and held on to it and sold it in 2022 for, what was it, 2,500,000,000?
2,050,000,000. Yeah.
2 billion. 2,050,000,000. Yeah.
Silly guys.
But I did enjoy the part where the Vulture had the gun, or Hardshell got the gun back off Vulture, and he's like, I need it to live. And she's like, okay, well, how about we use it for that and then we sell it? And he's like, I didn't think of that. And she's like, no, neither did I, but it was a good distraction. Yoink, it's mine again. And they would
it did get a bit cheesy, didn't it? I feel.
It was like one of those slapstick cartoons where like something's just falling and everyone's reaching for it and it's bouncing off one person. It just went from one person to the other, and they just they had to say something every time they got it as well. Though they couldn't just go. They had to be like, "Oh, I've got the blaster now. Me, I've got it.
Yeah.
Yes, you two
Me,
stop fighting because I've got it. And now I'm going to fly away in that direction. Don't touch me."
Just too literal, and I think there was a lot of that. Just really over-explaining what they were doing.
Yeah.
All we needed to know is we could see it. That person has now stolen the gun, and they are going that way or that way, and that's it.
This could have been a really fun book had they just done a little bit more of the silly side of it. You know, they know they're not the top tier villains, but they've got their plan. They're going to do it, and then they're going to do some infighting and just make it a bit more fun. Trying to make a serious book with this lot and have them be so, I want to say like Three Stooges, like slapstick. It didn't work as well as it could have. I think he maybe had an idea, he just couldn't put it down on paper.
I just think as well there were just too many villains. Like you touched on earlier on, and as the story went along, you just got a new villain every so often added to the fray. It's like just focus on the 3 or 4. Focus on the one team. You know, Vulture, Hardshell, Rhino, and Boomerang, and obviously Doc Ock as a side story type of thing, and focus on that. Stop adding other kind of things, because with this book, it doesn't seem like there was a main plot. Loads of different subplots. Like they all had their own little things going together. Like Hardshell and her husband fighting Stegron, and you had what was his name? The Beetle had his problems. He was trying to go straight. He had $250 in his bank. This just isn't good enough. So there's too many different kind of things happening for all the different characters that it's going to be hard to amalgamate it all together, you know. And I think
they could have maybe like each of the 3 stories, you know, the Beetle story, the Hardshell story, and the Doc Ock story. They could have been like, you know, through lines for another Spider-Man story. Like they could have been happening in the background while Peter's doing his main story, and then that could have built to something. But it felt like 3 separate stories that they just had to push together.
For what reason, we don't know. We can't even work out why. It doesn't
just to get 4 issues out.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice the Beetle and his power, where his blast came from?
His fingers, wasn't it?
It was his little finger.
No way.
I'm not lying. He fires. He fires from his little finger. It's one of my notes, and I laughed when I see him. Like he's flying away, and he turns around, and his little finger just shoots out to just like.
Oh God!
I thought that was quite funny. Let me just catch up on some chat because we've been talking and not checking in on the chat. Sorry about that. Going back to your second picture, Scott, that you chose. I did see some comments here. Triple G says, was he aiming for the horn? Let's hope not. That would have really hurt. As Highland G points out, any higher and that really would have hurt. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Grey Man chirps in with... Lucky Rhino was facing the other way, or Peter's proctologist. Yes, Peter's proctologist bill would have been enormous. Yes, I mean, it's a little bit of poor aiming on Peter's side. Yeah.
Plus, there's like 10 other villains you can use. Use a different villain, doesn't have a horn. If you want to have that pose, do it someone without a horn. It's easier.
Gives new meaning to the term butthead. The Grey Man has the deadly foes, but not the lethal foes. So maybe Grey Man can tell us what the first volume is like, because we haven't read it. Lewis has read, and he says the over-explaining just makes the villains seem dumb and not a threat. Or even funny, he says, which is true. Like it's not a fun book. It's a fun book because of the action and the silliness, but it's not a fun book. It's not written fun, if that makes sense. It's accidentally fun, which is kind of a shame because I don't think that's what he was going for.
You know, it goes back to what Phil was saying earlier, isn't it? Like he liked it, but he didn't like it.
Yeah. Like James says, anticlimactic, and I think that's because
the ending, was.
The ending just happens. They just they beat themselves.
Yeah.
They just beat themselves. Hardshell and Strikeback go, and Spider-Man's just standing there like, another job well done. It's like, no, you didn't do anything.
Good job.
Yeah, he's there like...
But he's got the gun now, so that's good.
I showed up. I've got the empty gun that doesn't fire anymore, so I saved the day. I'm taking that win. He's just there, gets his notebook out, and he's like, Spider-Man 1, bad guys 0.
Lethal foes 0. Yeah.
See, it's even going by how we're talking about with this blaster gun and how they all wanted it. Dr. Octavius didn't actually want the blaster gun. That was a part of his plan initially. That's why he initially wanted it. But he didn't want it to sell. He just wanted to get out of the prison and create his own arms again. So, but even that kind of side story with Octopus and the answer, again, just didn't seem to fit or gel with it's completely irrelevant to everything else that's went on.
In my opinion, that was the best part.
Yeah, I like
the Doc Ock
it.
and answer storyline. I think that was the most compelling and enticing thing of the whole 4 issues. That was the reason why I wanted to keep going, to be honest. The rest
but
about
it just didn't fit.
Yeah, the nuclear weed killer saga wasn't really much of a bother to me,
I think had it been Doc Ock and the answer, like a whole 4-issue miniseries with them, figuring out how to bring him back, how to escape, how to do all that, that would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
With actually utilizing Spider-Man to try and prevent that happening,
Yeah.
Then it
and Spider-Man having to try something different each time because the answer can contradict, he can counteract everything Spider-Man does. So he's got to come up with another way to stop them. And then he can stop that. So it would show Spider-Man being intelligent, being creative, being inventive, being an actual character, unlike this book.
We've said many a time, Shane, that you come up with a lot of good concepts. You should just write these books.
Just write books, mate.
Just go back to Danny Fingeroth and just say, listen, go back and redo this, please.
Look, I fixed it.
Yeah.
Well, what I can do is I can actually put some stickers on over all the text in the book, write it myself, then send it to CGC, and it'll get a higher grade than what it is because I will have edited the book myself. So apparently CGC like that. Who was your favourite character? Go on.
Out of the bad guys? Well, to be honest, I can't say Spider-Man because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I said characters, Scott.
I want to say the answer. The answer was my favourite one. I've never heard of him, and I thought his power was quite interesting. The fact that he could only, he could use any power ever, but only if it was to solve the situation posed in front of him. I thought that was a really interesting concept, and I think it worked well. It was cool.
Yeah,
I would say the answer.
Darwin from the X-Men.
Who?
He has the same. Darwin from the X-Men has kind of the same ability. Like he's mutant powers,
adaptability.
Yeah, it's such a great concept for a bad guy or a hero to be able to do that. Phil,
see, it'd be the answer also because he had more. He had more story and more layers in terms of why he became. What was it before he was a physical being? There was some sort of, I can't even remember what it was. Remember, he wasn't
energy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just there, and he connected through Doc Ock through a chip, through telepathic ways, whatever. And how he got to that point, obviously with the Kingpin and stuff, he just had more of a backstory, more of a purpose, more of a reason, really, I suppose. So the answer would be for me.
I think the answer as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So the answer to your question is the answer.
Yes, the answer is the answer. Oh, that would be a good quiz question. How about character design? Which of the Scott? You haven't seen some of these characters. Swarm was great.
Swarm.
Just bees.
But then he had a skeleton.
It was cool.
So what did they do? Did they take over a human and then eat the human down to bone, or is that the original master of the bees and then they just find his bones whenever they're free?
So what happened? Because you see a little bit of a bee flying into this container, an encapsulation, whatever it was called, that Doc Ock damaged without knowing he damaged it. So this bee flew in and then the swarm appeared. What like, was this like the bee going into some sort of like, nuclear energy, and he has powers now and he can do this? But like, or I don't know.
But he had memories of like he knew who Spider-Man. That's why
Yeah.
this is why I get confused too. Like he knew who Spider-Man was. Yeah, that was his motivation to get Spider-Man. But like,
What was
if
in
it's just
the
a
thing?
random bee was in this tank and just became
Could that have been
sworn.
the molecular rearranger they used to destroy the adamantium, and then like it rearranged the molecular structure of the? I don't know. They didn't explain it. It was just the bee that went into a machine and came out as the swarm, cape and all.
Yeah, like cape. Like, why does that happen? That's the thing. Today, like today's standards, that kind of thing would be done better or explained slightly better with the story. These are the things that they just didn't care about. They just wrote things for the sake of it.
But the amount of writing in this book, they could have explained step by step how that bee became the swarm.
Yeah.
It could have been like the bee finds the decomposing body of its master, and anything like that. Like, is that where they kept the skeleton? Like, or were there more bees in there and they were? I don't know. But he looked very cool when he came out. We've lost Scott. He looked very cool when he came out in his cloak, just bees just climbing over each other and being really creepy and gross, and it gives you goosebumps because you're like, oh, don't, that's so disgusting.
Yeah, one of the pages I was going to pick, if you recall, it's the one where he was kind of having a fight with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man was like kind of jumping and joisting away from all the swarm, and just the idea like that's his weapon almost. That's I thought was pretty cool. Yeah,
That page did make me laugh because I thought of Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man when Spider-Man's like, no, not the bees. And I was just like, and he's like, bees, and he's jumping around the page. It did make me think of the Nicolas Cage meme. He's got his head in the basket and they put the bees in there.
yes. I was going to say I've never seen The Wicker Man, but I've seen the meme.
Yeah, but I thought that was a cool design. Hardshell, I thought was a great design as well. Especially like the face was robotic, was like metal, but it moved like a human face. I don't know how she managed that.
Yeah, she looked like a female version of like Iron Man almost, didn't she? Like she could have easily belonged to that kind of story, that kind of book. But yeah, she was really cool. But I quite like what was her human? What's her real name?
Leila Davis.
So she's out of prison. She hugs this prison guard. She's like, I'm not back again. I'm gonna go straight, gonna go clean. And all of a sudden, day one, just plan on a heist or whatever, $1 billion weed killer, and just like I want like have a better motivation, like just more reason to kind of lean away from the light and go towards the dark.
Yep. It was just like, yeah, you won't see me in here again. Basically, just gloating that she's not going to get caught again. Not that I'm not going to stop doing crime. I'm just not going to be caught.
But that's what I thought. I thought she meant she's gone clean. She's gone straight. Then straight away, bang, heist time.
Yes. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you. Sorry.
I thought you left me again. Like,
Yeah, just have to give you that anxiety one more time.
So I think we're in agreement with this book. I'm not getting top spot this week. I didn't succeed in Spider-Man month. I know we're only week 1 in, but I'm pretty sure I lost Spider-Man month.
I don't know. Like I said, I had a good time, and we'll find out the scores the second. But it's not the worst thing that we've ever read. That's a positive.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's not the worst thing. I mean, that would be hard to do. To match the worst thing we've ever read on the herd.
Just to recap it for people, the worst things we have read this season are Nameless, which is my pick, and Onslaught Unleashed, which was a viewer's pick ages ago. 4.3 out of 10 they have got.
Yes. But we will see. Is everyone ready for our final thoughts and scores? Yes.
Yeah.
So everyone in the chat, if you have read... Sorry, I have a label on my t-shirt digging into my neck. I don't know why I said that out loud. That you didn't need to know that.
It's like this book. It's like you're narrating your
my brain.
thoughts. You've been reprogrammed into this.
Scott finds that funny.
Phil's just really tired and warm because it's really warm today.
So in the chat, if you have read this book and would like to share your final thoughts and scores, please do so, and we'll add them to our own. Phil, final thoughts and scores, please.
Like I said, I didn't. It's not good, but I enjoyed it to a point. And you touched on it earlier on. Like, it became accidentally funny. What's the bad thing? That's the you didn't mean to be. It kind of fell this way because of the silliness, whatever. So that's why I enjoyed it. But that's not what it should have been, because you should have planned a better story, a better book. And the fact that the kind of the different kind of storylines didn't really connect for a real purpose. It is what it is, but it just seemed a bit stupid. Because it didn't have a main plot, had loads of subplots. The character interactions we've mentioned were very drawn out. Everything's very wordy. Again, just looks very old school, Silver Age. The art was pleasant, like the colours. But again, you just wouldn't place this in the 90s. That's the negative. You just wouldn't place it in the 90s at all. A few inconsistencies with the art and the quality control with Aunt May. Those things annoy me. Like, you gotta get these things right in my mind, but sure. And the fact that Spider-Man was never really present in this book, or didn't need to be present. He was there, but even the times he was there, he didn't need to be there. But overall, it was 4 issues. It was quick enough, and it's worth reading it for this chat. If you know what I'm trying to say, like, it was worth reading that to talk about it. And that's the story. That's very middle of the road for me. 5 out of 10. That's me.
Awesome.
Nice.
Scott?
There was a lot of stories going on, and I think I'm getting to the point of saying there were too many stories going on. I think it was quite manageable at the start, but then they just kept adding and adding and adding. Like, Jesus, who the hell are all these? But I did like the fact that I was introduced to new characters. I just don't think that they should have done them all, for the story, or just done more reviews to kind of make them less compact. It's quite cheesy. That's not done. Too much exposition. Scott thought that they thought too much. And but it looked absolutely lovely. The art was really good. The character designs were awesome. A lot of great detail, a lot of good colours. Really enjoyed it. And the quality control, the QC issues that Phil mentioned as well, also irked me slightly. The 3 arms thing that confused me, and then the Hunt May, and the fact that a word was missing from the reprint that we read. Bugged me a bit, but it's going to be a 5.5 for me.
Oh, you scored a Spider-Man book higher than Phil.
Whoa.
But I have a lot more to compare to. You see, I have read good Spider-Man stories with actually Spider-Man in them.
Okay. So we're expecting good things from your pick then this wave.
Of course.
The Cult of Pop in the chat, you've given a reason. You've given your final thoughts. Can you give your score out of 10 if you have one, please? For me, I have a massive sentimental attachment to this. Like, the physicality of it means more to me than the story. Like, owning this 4-part miniseries means more to me. So to be fair, I'm going to ignore my heart and I'm going to go with my head. This is a fun, silly, throwaway, nothing story. Doesn't impact the Marvel Universe in any way. Everyone ends up where they started. It's just a 4-issue book that they just put out because they probably wanted an extra Spider-Man book on the shelf for 4 months. Or maybe it was weekly, who knows? It was just a throwaway Spider-Man title. It's lovely drawn. It's drawn lovely. Lovely drawn. See, this is what happens when I speak from my brain. It was drawn lovely. Colours are great. Character designs awesome. It is weird, like Phil said, it's not a 90s book. It says 1993 on the cover, but it feels very 80s. This would not be out of place as a backup story in Secret Wars. It felt very, very 80s. But for me, I enjoyed it for what it was, silly, throwaway fun. So for me, I'm going to give it... see, I was torn. I did have a higher score written down, but I'm going to go lower because I think that was based on sentiment more than, the actual
nostalgia.
book. Yeah, so I'm going to give this a 5. I think it's right in the middle there. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I think it's fun enough, you know. We have some scores in the chat.
Yeah, we've got quite a few.
Yeah.
Do we have the Cult of... yes, we do. Okay, so we have James who says 6 for me, too wordy, wanted more Doc Ock. Fair enough.
Nice and concise, thank you.
Yes, just like Triple G's. He says 5, and that's being generous.
Well, don't hold back, Pete. Just do you, mate.
We have a 4.5 from Lewis. He says it's too wordy and too convoluted, which is kind of fair. We have a 4.5 from Wednesday Spoiler.
Yep.
And we have
Miss Martins.
Yep, I'm going back up because I've got the Cult of Pops to do as well. Martin says, I had fun reading this, but the writing wasn't good. The art was cool and felt like a homage to the Silver Age. It just needed a bit more Spidey. It's a 5 from me.
Cool.
And the Cult of Pop says, overall, this wasn't bad. Some of the villains were more obscure, but I thought the answer had cool powers, cheesy name, and costume, though. So he has given this a 6, mostly for nostalgia, classic 90s villains. Yeah, see, I had to take the nostalgia out of it, but mine was going to be a 6 as well. So we're on the same wavelength there. So I think that's what nostalgia does to you. It makes you score books a little higher than you feel like you should.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Got all the scores in? Yes, I do. No problem. So with all the scores in...
Am I
10? You tell us, mate. Okay, so the audience, thank you very much, guys, as well. You have given us the average of 5.2 out of 10. Adding that onto Phil's 5, Shane's 5, and my 5.5. That gives a total of 5.2. So there we go. The audience nailed it on the head there. So thank you very much. Let's see. We all know by now, if you're a regular, this doesn't hit the top 10. But we'll show you anyway, because we like to show it. But yeah, here we go. Here's the top 10. It's looking good.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get on there, isn't it?
100%. And here is the rest of the leaderboard. So 5.2 puts it at 26th place. Just underneath Slayer and above Bite Sized.
It's our first 5.2.
It is. It's nice to get a new score.
Yeah, last week we got a new score for Extremity as well.
Yeah. But there we go. We're nearly done, guys. Just looking at that leaderboard, we're nearly done for the season.
Mad.
I mean, yeah, it's great.
See, 5.2, like, it seems like we didn't like the book, but it's a weird score because we all kind of liked the book. Even the guys in the chat kind of liked it.
We enjoyed it, but we can acknowledge that it's not the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just say, I don't know, put like a 5.2 and a little plus next to it. Like
give it
a little
A-star.
thumbs up, you know?
I think anything more than a 5 shows we liked it. Because 5 is pretty much you don't anything it, isn't it? You know,
It's
I don't
neutral.
like it, I don't hate it. Yeah. So if it's under a 5, we didn't like it. If it's over a 5, we liked it. Just there's a scale. So it's in the plus by 0.2. I will take it. So next week, should I tell everyone what we're reading?
Let's go.
Let's roll VT.
Roll it, baby.
Whose pick is that?
It's
Scott.
me! And as Shane sneakily brought it up in conversation halfway through the show today, we are going to be reading Spider-Man Blue, which
I
is
totally forgot. Yeah, I did that.
You're like, if only Spider-Man was blue. And I was like, well, wait till next week and you can see a blue Spider-Man in this book. So yeah, this is something I have no idea about, but I know it's heavily based upon Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy's relationship, and you know how much I love a relationship-based story. So I'm really looking forward to this pick, and I hope I've picked a good one. I have literally no idea. So yeah, there we go. I'm looking forward to it.
Just on that, guys, for guys in the chat and guys listening to the podcast, I checked today that book's free to read on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime,
Nice.
it's free on Prime reading. So get on it for next week.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I'm looking forward
Just
to
as
that.
well, to let everyone else know, we are 2 episodes away, and then we will be hitting our 100th episode. And it's going to be amazing. So keep watching to find out what we pick for that. It's going to be a good one. So yes, but there, that's all from me.
It's good night from him, and it's good night from me.
I'm going to hang on for a while.
It did sound like that, didn't it? Sorry. Yes.
So
Reporting
yes,
from
Spider-
Wales, Scott Shelf.
So yes, Spider-Man Blue next week. I am looking forward to it. I hope that art's all the way through it. So I'm really looking forward to it because yes, I did want to see that, didn't I? So fingers crossed I like it. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it. I hope you'll join us again next week for Spider-Man Blue. Until then, get your waves out.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Love you.